Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare and conquer your upcoming hike, trek or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. Hello guys. So today we are talking all about specific workouts which a hiker, trekker or mountaineer can apply into certain stages of their preparation. Now throughout this podcast so far, I've been talking about a whole bunch of different subjects. Some of it's been in a general sense, some of it's been a little bit more specific and talking about particular things you can do. Today we are only talking about the specifics. So I'm going to be diving into the exact things you can be doing in particular workouts to develop certain aspects of your trekking performance, which is going to help you on the trail. Now, I'm going to be talking about things which are more or less conditioning based. So when you're up and moving around, you might be running, you might be cycling, stuff like that. Not so much about strength or muscular development stuff, which I might do another podcast on later on. But basically, we're going to cover a whole bunch of different topics. So if you do have a particular thing you're trying to work on, hopefully you can pull a workout out of this today and you can get some benefit out of it. But without any further ado, let's jump into the very first one. So to start with, I want to talk about how you can be developing your muscular endurance. Now, muscular endurance is incredibly important for any hiker, trekker, or mountaineer. And basically, it's the ability of your muscles to produce a relative amount of force again and again and again and again. Now, this is really appropriate when you're on the trail, when you're going up hills or upstairs and you're going up and up and up and up and your legs start getting a little bit burny, they start fatiguing, and obviously that's not ideal. If you have better muscular endurance, your body can repeatedly do these contractions and those steps and the climbing without so much of an issue, and you're going to not fatigue quite as quickly. So obviously it's pretty important. Now I've got a couple of different workouts here, one that you can do outside and one that you can do inside at the gym. Now the very first one is a loaded hill repeat, which I may have mentioned in another podcast before, but we're going to go over it in detail today. Now what you are going to need for this is you're going to have to find a hill which is quite steep, like pretty reasonably steep, or a set of stairs. The trail shouldn't be too technical, so you should just be able to walk without thinking. And the distance of that hill wants to be 8 minutes, it'll take you roughly 8 minutes or more to climb. So it might take a little bit of finding around to find that out in your local area, but it is pretty important. Number two is you're going to need your pack, and you're going to have to load your pack up with water bottles. What you're going to do is fill up a whole bunch of water bottles with a certain amount of weight, which I'm going to talk about in a second. You're going to pack the rest of your pack out with towels, and then you're going to put that on your back and then climb up this hill. Now, the way that you find the amount of weight that you actually want is a little bit tricky at first. It does take a little bit of guesswork, but eventually once you get it right, it is very, very effective. Basically, you want to be finding a weight in your pack in which you can climb up this very particular hill at a pace where you don't get out of breath and you can still maintain a conversation, but your legs are burning more or less from the get-go. So that does take a little bit of playing around. So the first time you do it, you might load up your pack, you might be climbing, your legs aren't burning, and they only start burning once you start getting out of breath. If that is the case, then you need more weight in your pack. And then what you're going to do once you find that weight is basically going to go from the top, bottom of the hill, you're going to climb all the way up to the top of the hill at a pace in which you can still maintain a conversation. Once you get to the top of the hill, you're going to pour all that water out onto the ground. You're going to climb back down the hill. You're going to refill your water bottles, whether it's a river or a tap or whatever, and you're going to repeat that. Now, the idea behind emptying your water bottles at the top is very, very important just to protect your knees, because if you go, and as we all know, when you go downhill, your knees take a huge amount of extra force. So by emptying the water out at the top, we can minimize that extra force going through the knees and just protect them. So you can get that really good training effect going up and then just, give them a little bit of relief on the way down. Now, what you want to be doing here is initially, you probably want to start off at about 3 of these repeats. So you're going to climb up for about 8 to 10 minutes, something like that. Empty out all your water bottles, return down the bottom. It'll take you, anywhere between like 5, 6, 7 minutes, something like that. And then repeat that about 3 times. Now, what you're going to do to progress this week by week by week is you can either go two directions. Number one, you could add an extra repetition every single week and do that for about 4, 5, 6 weeks. And that will be very, very effective at improving this muscular endurance. Alternatively, you can increase the weight by about another litre or 2 litres or 3 litres each week, depending on how strong you are. You want to choose one or the other, depending on your time commitments, and you want to do that maybe about 4 to 6 weeks maximum before changing up. That's going to be very, very effective for your muscular endurance. The other option, if you don't have a hill like that nearby or you prefer to work in a gym, you can do more or less the same thing on a treadmill. Now, it is a bit trickier to find a treadmill that's high enough to do this and to get that really, really good effect, but you can get reasonably close. So what you want to be doing, pretty similar. You want to get your pack or you want to get a loaded vest. I prefer a pack just because you don't get quite as sweaty. Load that up with a whole bunch of weight. You want to crank a treadmill up as high as it goes, and you want to basically climb up that treadmill for about 8 minutes with that loaded pack, getting a good burn on your legs. And then once you do your 8 minutes, you want to relax on the flat for maybe about 2 to 3 minutes and repeat that maybe 4, 5, 6 times. Again, each week, you can either progress it by adding an extra repetition, or you can progress it by adding a little bit extra weight in your back. But either or, those are both very, very effective ways in improving your muscular endurance and very specific workouts that more or less anyone listening to this can do, which they can slot in their preparation somewhere. Now, number 2 is I want to talk about if you're always getting huffed and puffed on hills. Now, this is a couple of very specific workouts for this that's going to help improve that. Now, these workouts are aimed to develop something that's called aerobic power, which in very, very technical terms is the maximal work rate your body can sustain while still using oxygen as a fuel source. And that last bit is very important, in which you're still using oxygen. So you're not getting switching into these other energy systems which don't use oxygen. You're still staying in that aerobic energy system, which is very important for anyone on the trail. Now, how you're going to develop this outside in the gym, you've got 2 options. We got a whole bunch of options, but I like 2. Number 1, if you are already a runner and you're quite happy running, you can put a decent pace in it, you don't have any joint issues, running is a good option. Alternatively, if you're not a good runner, cycling is a good option. So by getting a push bike and then finding a relatively flat area in which to cycle on. What you're going to be doing is really simple. You're going to put a big effort for 3 minutes. So if you're running, you're going to be running very, very quick for 3 minutes. Or if you're cycling, you're going to be cycling very, very quick for 3 minutes. You're going to try and push yourself so you're getting huffed and puffed and you're pushing yourself for the entire 3 minutes. You're going to relax for 2 minutes. So whether that will be a walk or a very, very gentle cycle for 2 minutes. And you repeat that about 5 or 6 times. Now, it is very important to stay to these timing intervals. They are very specific for this thing we're aiming for. But probably the best bet is to put a timer on your phone or something like that to beep at you. And then what you're going to do every single week that you do that, you're just going to add an extra repetition on top of that. So week 1, you'll do 5. Week 2, you do 6. Week 3, you'll do 7. Week 4, you'll do 8. And then after 4 weeks of that, you probably want to change it up to something else. So whether it's going to be a different exercise for that or some other workout. But that's a very, very effective way outside to develop that aerobic power and also really help you when you're getting huffed and puffed going up hills. Alternatively, if you want to do it in the gym, you can do it on more or less any bit of equipment that you can sustain at a quick pace for those 3 minutes. So options I often use are the rower, the cross trainer, the stationary cycle, things you don't really have to think. You can just really put in a good pace, but that's very, very effective. So if you are getting huffed and puffed out when you're going up hills, choose one of those and bang them out, and I really do think it will help. Number 3, I want to talk about muscular strength. Now, muscular strength is very, very important for any type of hike or trekker moving through. Usually, traditionally, we'll do that with weights. It's probably the easiest way to do it, but some people really don't like weights and they prefer to do it in a different way. So here are a couple of alternatives if you're not a big fan of strength training, but you still want to develop your muscular strength. Now, this initial workout's coming from the guys that are uphill athlete, so I'm not claiming this as my own, but I've just sort of borrowed it from them. Basically, you want to find, again, a very, very steep hill or very, very steep set of stairs. So something that's going to be even footing, but it's very, very steep. What you're going to do, you can have a thorough warm-up, get yourself ready to roll, and then you're going to do a maximal sprint of 8 seconds and charge up that hill or that set of stairs. So you're going to go as quick as you can, absolutely smash it for 8 seconds. Once that 8 seconds is up, you stop and you rest for 2 minutes. And you're going to repeat that about 6, 7, or 8 times. Very, very important that you don't push yourself beyond 8 seconds, maybe 10 seconds as a maximum, because that's going to be a very different type of workout, but you're really just doing that short maximal efforts. What you're going to do to progress that, each week you're just going to do an extra one again. So you might start 5 repetitions, do 6 the next time, 7 the next time, and so on and so on. Now, obviously this workout's only really appropriate for those who are already regular runners and who are pretty happy sprinting. And that's not going to be a huge amount of the listeners, but it is an option for you. Alternatively, if you want to do this in the gym and you want to do it in a bit of a safer thing and it has a bit of a less chance of injury, you can do this with a sled just as well. So many gyms have these sleds now, whether it's one of the stationary arm treadmills with a sled or whether it's just an up and down on a track. What you want to do here is more or less the same thing. You want to load the sled up with a reasonable amount of weight, something that's going to give you a bit of resistance while you're pushing, but it's not going to be, slow you down outrageously. And you're going to basically sprint all out for 8 seconds, rest for 2 minutes, and repeat that about 5 times. And every single week, add an extra repetition. Seeing the sled is a little bit safer to do that, purely for the fact that you're not thumping on the ground. The sled sort of changes a little bit of the dynamic of the exercise, and it is a little bit safer. So that's a decent option for you. However, I will say again, if you do have any injury, you're suffering with foot pain, shin pain, knee pain, that's probably not the best option for you, and you're probably looking at your strength training anyway. But that is a couple of options for you. Now, moving on, if you are struggling with your walking speed. Now, this is something that comes to me from quite a few trekkers, and they say, look, either I always find like I'm at the back of the pack and I'm holding people up, or alternatively, I find myself in this funny zone where I'm not quick enough to stay with the quick walkers, but I'm too quick to be with the slow walkers. And people want to basically improve their speed on the trail so they can, be a little more comfortable and they don't have to stress about where they're sitting in the pack. So a really easy way to develop this is something called tempo walks. Now, a whole bunch of things go into developing your walking speed. The simplest way of doing it is simply teaching your body that it can walk quicker and training the body to walk quicker at longer periods of time. It's really simple. It's not rocket science, but it does work. So what I like to get people to do for this is generally I will get them walking, whether it's on a trail, whether it's around the neighborhood, whether probably not on the treadmill because that changes the walking gait a little bit. So this does want to be on flat, normal ground. What you want to be doing, first week, you're going to do a 45-minute walk. And you're going to do 1 minute walking, whatever pace you want, whatever your normal thing is. And then 1 minute walking quite a bit quicker. So more or less at the maximal pace that you can sustain for a minute while you're still walking. So you don't want to go into a jog. It's not a walk, run. It is a walk and then quicker walk. And then slow walk, and then quicker walk. And you do that for 45 minutes. Week 2, you're going to change that a little bit and you're going to go quick for 90 seconds, slow for 1 minute. And repeat that for 45 minutes. Week 3, quick for 2 minutes, slow for 1 minute. And then week 4, quick for 2.5 minutes, slow for 1 minute. Each week you're just increasing a little bit, and that can be very effective for your walking speed. And as I said, there's a few other bits and pieces that go into that, but that can be very effective. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about mental strength training as well. So previously we talked about mental strength training, being a whole topic on itself. There are a couple of workouts you can do specifically to develop this. Now, this is mainly to prepare people for, big summit days. So whether they're a trekker going up to Kilimanjaro, they might be dealing with like a 14-hour summit day, all the way to a mountaineer who might be doing something ridiculous like a 24-hour or 26-hour summit day. And in all honesty, it's very hard to prepare yourself mentally for these things. But there are a couple of different workouts which can help in this situation. Now, this first one is called a grind workout, and you're going to be doing this with a sled or a tire sled. This isn't mine again. This is borrowed from Joe Bonington from Joe's Base Camp, but it's a really cool workout, and it might be very effective in this situation. So basically what you want to be doing, you want to set yourself up a little tire harness. So you get a tire, an empty tire, attach a rope to it, put a little harness around your shoulders, and that's going to be great. You're going to go down a beach, or if you don't have a beach, you're going to go to an oval. You're going to grab your trekking poles, you're going to put the harness on, you're going to put a pack on, and you're going to walk up and down the beach or up and down the oval for about 10 hours plus. Now, that is incredibly boring. That is incredibly monotonous. It's not exciting in any sense, way, shape, or the form, and majority of people in the world are never going to do that. But if you do need to prepare yourself for one of these particularly outrageous days, just trying to get something monotonous, something that's going to you struggle with, something that's going to cause you issues. The tire's probably going to be bumping on the sands or getting caught on the oval. That is going to be very, very effective at getting you in that zone and that sort of insanity zone where you have to stay concentrating, but also zone out and just pushing through that boredom. So that's number one. There's not a huge amount of technical work to that. It's literally just going and going and going and going for a long period of time. Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, or if it's a bit of a hassle to do the tire sled, you can do it on a sled in the gym as well. So this one's probably not on one of the stationary ones that you could do it, but more going up and down a track. Again, loading up that sled relatively heavy, and you're literally just going to be pushing it up and down, up and down, up and down for a very long period of time. Now, this was inspired by a couple of mates of mine who just recently did a 12-hour sled push for charity. So they literally spent 12 hours going up and down a 10-meter track, taking turns on that to raise a whole bunch of money for mental health. And it can be very effective in this situation as well. Again, probably not a huge amount of people in the world are going to do a workout like that. But if you are trying to find a way which you can prepare yourself mentally for something absolutely crazy and monotonous, that might be a good option for you. So there you go, guys. That's probably about enough from me today. A few particular workouts which you hopefully should be able to slot into your preparations in one way or another if you do need to work on particular issues. Now, if anyone does have any questions around this or anything wasn't so clear, please do let me know. Swing me an email at rowan@summitstrength.com.au. I'm more than happy to discuss this stuff with anyone. I do absolutely love it when people reach out, and I would love to hear from you. But if you have enjoyed this episode and you have been enjoying the podcast, as always, please, 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 I would love it if you can go onto iTunes, leave me a 5-star review. It goes a long way to helping this more people discover this podcast, helping me grow it and reach a whole bunch more hikers, trekkers, and mountaineers to help in their preparations. So thank you for listening, guys, and we will talk to you very, very soon.